All right, Basement Tapes, number 104. Still in 1961, still with Fleer. Back to baseball, though. We are in a 1961 Fleer World Series decal. These are inserts, of course, from the 1961 Fleer set baseball, and they depict at least 48 World Series, I guess. There's 48 of them. I own 16, so if you're doing the math, that is 1/3. I'm batting .333 here. Beckett OPG tells us very little. They just tell us that there's 48 of them. Don't give us any assigned value for the sets or the cards or the total value. So we'll hop on over to TCDB if that's okay. And we'll see that these beautiful little cards, these beautiful little inserts are pretty appealing here. There's no Hall of Famers. So let's talk about the teams represented, though. That's not correct either. Not sure what's going on there. So TCDB is a little bit off on their teams because they're going by the entire set, but we see all sorts of stuff there. The Braves from Boston, the Red Sox, all that stuff. So essentially, what we have here are a bunch of pennants and depicting the World Series from various years. Of course, it looks like it's starting in 1913 for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why. Let me go back to Beckett for a second and see what's going on here. Odd to start in 1913, but they certainly do. So not quite sure why, but it depicts 1913 through 1960, which was a classic series between the Pirates and the Yankees. So starting in 1913, we have the A's and the Giants, and we're depicting the champions on a pennant, and it tells us the logo, tells us the year, tells us world champions on the pennant, and the top right it'll say A's 4 games, Giants 1 game. So that is the 1913 World Series. There's a bunch of sweeps in there because the Braves would win 4-0 against the A's the next year. But we see the Red Sox with their back-to-backs, 1915 and 1916. White Sox appear as champions in 1917, and that pennant is red. So we alternate colors, I guess, depending on what mood people were in at the time. But they're all there. Everybody who won a World Series between 1913 and 1960 is depicted on these banners. What is interesting to find is obviously there are contemporary logos on here depicting teams from way back when. It's really obvious with the Indians. It's obvious with the Giants and stuff like that. So lots of fun stuff here. It's the same logos that I think. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say there's decals, team decals, but the Washington Senators clearly have their own logo on this pennant for the 1924 World Series that wasn't depicted on the decals of the same year. So interesting little nuances in this set, but they're either navy blue or red pennants depending on the mood of the graphic artist, and it depicts all your world champions. Of course, the Yankees 4 in a row from 1936 to 1939. But all sorts of fun baseball historical stuff there. These are blank backs. These are, what are these? These are just decals. So the same MO. You could stick these on with a little water, perhaps a squeegee, and then as long as you let them dry, you're in good shape forever. So again, I'll call out, as I always do, that it's fun that these things have survived so long. It's only been 60 plus years, but still fighting the urge and the conventional wisdom to just slap these things on anything you wanted. Books, bathtubs, cars, telephone poles, all that stuff was it was difficult to fight that urge, I'm sure, because nowadays we save everything and lock it away. But back then, everything was meant to be used and handled and played with. So anyway, 48 of those bad boys, little pennants depicting the World Series from 1913 to 1960. Fun little baseball historical set there, and I need to get going on finishing this thing, I assume. Again, I get these things in collections and stuff like that. So the fun part about getting cards that you've never seen or gotten before is from series and typesets is that it gives you the um, just keeps your eyes looking out for future items just like this. Now that I have this, I know to look for them. So that's kind of fun to have that in my collection, but it's also fun to do this exercise of the basement tapes so that I can remind myself I really need to start getting on some of these or keeping an eye out for some of this stuff out in the wilds. That's it. Basement Tapes 104, the 1961 Fleer Baseball Greats World Series pennant decals. Thanks for everything you do